The debate over NASCAR's new charter agreement has heated up, putting the emphasis on 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports, which have yet to sign the disputed contract. Industry analysts are already forecasting a court fight as these teams protest NASCAR's demands. 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports are in more trouble than we thought, and this could mean that one or both charters are out of NASCAR after this year. Will they really let it get that far? The issue centers around 23XI Racing, which is co-owned by NBA great Michael Jordan and FRM. These teams have expressed serious worries about the new charter's consequences for rule revisions, intellectual property rights, and the customary ties between teams and their drivers. Denny Hamlin, known as the voice of 23XI Racing, has been especially vociferous about the perceived inequality. "Yeah, it's a threat," Hamlin responded when questioned about the charter agreement provisions. "That's if you speak negatively. If they don't like what you say, yeah, they're trying to reserve the right." According to Fox Sports, teams were told they may lose their charters for the 2025 season if they did not approve the current plan by Friday night. This seems to persuade most teams to collapse. However, 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports have maintained their previous position. 23XI decided not to meet a NASCAR-imposed deadline last night to sign charter agreements for its two cars for 2025-2031, a 23XI Racing statement stated. 23XI's position, as stated in a letter to NASCAR, is that they did not have an opportunity to fairly bargain for a new charter contract. "We notified NASCAR what issues needed to be addressed, in writing, at the deadline. We are interested in engaging in constructive discussions with NASCAR to address these issues and move forward in a way that comes to a fair resolution while strengthening the sport we all love. At 23XI Racing, we remain committed to competing at the highest level while also standing firm in our belief that NASCAR should be governed by fair and equitable practices." Charters were introduced for the first time in 2016, and the initial arrangement was renewed until the end of the season in 2020. The goal was to instill consistency in the teams and promote business certainty. Simply put, the charter system ensures admission into each race and hence a share of the payout. Owning a charter improves the worth of the team beyond its tangible assets, allowing prospective sponsors to assess the long-term advantages of investment. As part of the existing deal, teams earn around 39% of the broadcast contract, including race purse distributions. Overall, 51% goes to NASCAR, while 10% goes to the racetrack. Black Book Motorsport reported that the most recent proposal endorsed by the majority of the teams provides them the highest percentage cut of the new television agreement, ahead of NASCAR and the tracks. Curtis Polk, who has a stake in 23XI and has been Michael Jordan's longtime business manager, talked with media at Atlanta Motor Speedway following 23XI Racing's reluctance to sign the deal. "NASCAR has consistently refused to deal with 23XI in these negotiations," Polk told Fox Sports. "We are David facing Goliath. NASCAR has superior bargaining power and undue influence over the sport and the charter process. They wielded this power continuously over the past few months and consistently rejecting broad team requests on major issues while providing minor changes for pet issues that some teams requested in one-on-one meetings." As of now, neither NASCAR President Steve Phelps nor Front Row Motorsports owner Bob Jenkins had issued a public remark about the occurrences. Front Row Motorsports' decision not to sign is especially significant because the team has stated its desire to acquire one of the 4 charters being left by Stewart-Haas Racing at the end of the season. "We understand that some teams may have felt pressured and compelled to sign the agreement under significant duress," Polk told reporters. While other teams may have signed the charter agreement, 23XI Racing faces our own challenges that make these terms particularly harmful to our operations and our ownership groups, interests, and intellectual property rights. This isn't the 1960s, and these predatory practices will not withstand scrutiny and be accepted in 2024. It will be interesting to follow what's really going on with these agreements, but one thing is sure, it's not going according to plan. The discussions, which were supposed to finish before the Daytona 500, have continued into Week 2 of the NASCAR playoffs without conclusion. The issue is serious, and both 23XI and FRM are putting themselves in extremely precarious positions as they make an attack against NASCAR. The stakes are high, and with rumors of a court battle increasing, the scenario has the makings of a major institutional crisis for the sport. 23XI Racing's appointment of famous antitrust attorney Jeffrey Kessler shows that the company is seriously considering legal action, most likely to address the claimed unfair tactics and coercion. Kessler, recognized for his work in changing NCAA name, image, and likeness rules, might lead an antitrust complaint, implying that 23XI Racing is bracing for a tough legal struggle. This controversy is exacerbated by complaints from 23XI and FRM about the treatment of teams that signed the charter. Such charges, if proven, may have far-reaching consequences for NASCAR's governance and future team contracts. The outcome of this battle is unknown, but the consequences are enormous. Hopefully, the teams and NASCAR can find some middle ground. So, all but 2 teams have apparently signed a new NASCAR charter agreement, but what does this imply for those teams? We know 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports are holding out, but what did the other teams agree on? While we don't have all of the information, there have been reports of problems with the new charter agreement for teams such as 23XI and FRM. It is possible that the same issues have deterred these 2 teams from contracting with the others. Adam Stern of Sports Business Journal has written in further depth on the major objections the teams have with the charter agreement. Concerns that some teams have had with the fresh charter contract include whether they will be limited in having a say over costly rule changes and whether there's new clauses that'll impact their traditional relationships with drivers and ownership of their intellectual property, Stern wrote on X. Denny Hamlin has discussed being regarded as an equal partner. He does not feel that NASCAR's leadership views charter holders as equals. Teams may battle for sponsorship with the sanctioning authority. Often, teams are excluded from marketing partnerships. Talking about intellectual property rights opens up a whole other bucket of worms. Clauses that might impact their traditional relationships with drivers include things like driver incentive schemes. Owners are concerned that this may push drivers to choose NASCAR events over those for their own race teams. It appears like the NASCAR charter negotiations have gone out of control. Officials wanted things completed before the Daytona 500. We're already in week 2 of the playoffs, and some clubs are still holding out. This problem has the potential to escalate into a court struggle. Don't forget, the teams hired Jeffrey Kessler earlier this year. Kessler is the antitrust lawyer at the center of the NCAA NIL revisions that have engulfed collegiate athletics over the last year. Yes, most teams have decided to sign the charter agreement. That's okay. 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports claim that they were not treated fairly. They further claim that the clubs that did sign did so under pressure, with the prospect of losing their charters. Jordan Bianchi and Jeff Gluck of The Athletic explained why 23XI and Front Row are holding out. They didn't like the terms of the deal? That's just the gist of it. They felt like NASCAR was heavy-handed and more 23XI than Front Row Motorsports in this. Though, Front Row Motorsports does share a lot of the sentiment expressed by 23XI in their statement, Bianchi said. There's a lot of frustration that NASCAR is kind of fell back in their historic ways of being heavy-handed. You know, our way of the highway. This is how we're doing things. There was no negotiating in good faith is probably the best way to describe it. Gluck met with Curtis Polk, the business manager for 23XI co-owner Michael Jordan. Polk told Gluck the negotiations are like David facing Goliath, and that NASCAR has not been fair in these negotiations. Gluck added, he even described it as a step backward from the current charter system. We know they're going to be getting more from the TV revenue, but they also did not get everything they wanted and the other things they were asking for. I don't think anyone expected it to end out this way, but Michael Jordan and his 23XI squad are standing firm. They want to secure the best possible contract while maintaining their connection with NASCAR. The NASCAR charter discussions have moved into a new phase. Will there be a threat of legal action against the sanctioning body? Maybe an antitrust suit? We are currently headed in that direction, but it does not make it inevitable. Not yet. What do you think? Will they eventually sign, or will they take it to court? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.